Titanfall 2 is a game that everyone loved but no one played. Released at the worst possible time in 2016, right between Battlefield 1 and Infinite Warfare, Titanfall 2 garnered critical acclaim and a small but fiercely loyal fanbase. After being unplayable for the past few years, the game has recently had a sort of revival and is now experiencing a surge in players. Couple this with the hints that the devs have been dropping that a proper continuation of the series is finally on the way, and now seems as good a time as ever for me to try and hop on the algorithm train and get those sweet SEO clicks. Also, I was gifted this game by a friend, so I'm kind of obligated to play it. You want parkour? This game's got it. Fast-paced combat and punchy weapons? Hey, what do you know? Giant mechs with armaments that probably count as 8 different war crimes? That's quite literally the name of the game. All of these things and more can be found in... Alright, here's the backstory. Titanfall 2 largely builds off the first one in terms of gameplay, but makes 2 monumental changes that were intended to garner a bigger audience. First big change, it's no longer exclusive to the Xbox One. Unlike Titanfall Uno, Titanfall Dos was released on 3 platforms as opposed to just 1. Now the invitation to pilot robots with comically oversized guns was being extended to PS4 and PC players as well. Sorry Wii U boys, you're still left out. Second big change, we're disregarding what Carmack said and putting in a story this time around. The first Titanfall had no single player campaigns. The idea was to have the multiplayer maps string together an overarching story, told through the objectives that each opposing team was trying to complete. Here, everything's been a little more standardized. Story mode for people who want to know the lore and context for this world, multiplayer for the people who don't give a shit about any of that. When Titanfall 2 came out in 2016, it was practically dead on arrival. As I mentioned in the intro, the game was released between Battlefield 1, which everyone was hyped as hell for, and Infinite Warfare, which everyone was mad about because they won Call of Duty Modern Warfare 9 or some shit. Contributing to the game's quick death was a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, where no one would shut the fuck up about the game's low player count, which discouraged people from buying the game and increasing the player count, leading to an initially low player base that dwindled very quickly. Despite this though, the game was very well received, getting rave reviews, a Game of the Year nomination, and securing a microscopic but mega loyal fanbase. Respawn continued to support the game for about a year before largely putting it in maintenance mode and moving everyone on to other projects, namely Fallen Order and, of course, Apex Legends. I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone what Apex Legends is, but in case I do, it's a battle royale game that serves as a spin-off to the Titanfall series, sharing the same universe and characters, but going in a very different direction with regard to story and especially overall gameplay. In an example of some of the most brutal irony I've ever seen, Apex ended up achieving a level of success that dwarfed that of either of the mainline games, much to the consternation of many longtime fans, especially my friend Brandon, who turns into the girl from The Exorcist every time you bring it up. Just to add more salt to a still fresh and bleeding quite profusely wound, Titanfall 2 servers were decimated by hackers a few years ago, leading the game to be largely unplayable, effectively erasing what little player base it had left, as the only remaining options were either to play on privately hosted servers or just move on to something else entirely. Very recently, however, this all changed. Respawn managed to bring the servers back up, making the game playable to a wide audience once again. Alongside this, they've also begun adding the first new content the game has seen in years in the form of brand new game modes. Combine this with a $3 sale and you've got a recipe for the most players the game has seen in over 5 years. All this was initially thought to be the work of one dedicated employee, who the fans nicknamed the Janitor. With the new gameplay additions, however, as well as recent hints from Respawn that something is brewing in the studio regarding the franchise, the atmosphere has been set for Da Vinci Code-esque theorizing about what could be in store for the series. Moving away from the wider fanbase and into my own personal story now, Titanfall 2 is a game that I've intended to play for a while now but just never got around to. I played the open beta all the way back in 2016 and thought it was a blast, but like seemingly everyone else, I ultimately passed up on getting it. When the servers came back up and the game went on sale, however, my friend Rhett bought me and the rest of our group copies of the game so we could all give the multiplayer a shot. It's a lot of fun and I really enjoy playing it, but you probably noticed the distinct lack of footage from it so far in the video. This is for 2 reasons, the first being that I'm garbage at it and don't feel like showing everyone that I play like I have astigmatism, and the second being that this channel is focused on single player games anyway. Conveniently enough, Titanfall 2 actually has single player this time around. I'm not super familiar with the lore of this series, but I did a bit of reading on it before writing this script, and the basic gist is that like 700 years in the future, humanity has colonized the stars, as they tend to do in sci-fi, and is divided into 2 sets of planets, the core systems, which are the seat of government and economy, and the frontier, a Wild West-style group of colonies home to anti-government militias and Branch Davidians. Fighting over the frontier is the militia, a loosely organized army of good old boys and girls who ain't gonna let the government take over their ranches, and the IMF, a comically evil megacorporation run by a British version of Jeff Bezos. You play as Jack Cooper, a member of the militia who dreams of one day becoming a pilot. Pilots are basically the Titanfall universe's equivalent to Spartans from Halo. They're nearly superhuman badasses that run really fast and mow motherfuckers down in large numbers. They also know how to pilot these giant murder mechs known as Titans. These Titans were apparently originally created for construction and cargo hauling purposes, but it was quickly discovered the giant metal 500-ton robots also show promise in the industry of killing massive amounts of people. Cooper's dream is close to becoming a reality as he's receiving pilot training from this guy whose name I forgot. Captain Tutorial hooks us up into some VR world and shows us the basic ropes of how the game is played. Right off the bat, I want to point out the graphics. I'm not normally a graphics whore, but I gotta say, this game looks gorgeous. You wanna know the craziest part? This is on the Source engine. Yeah, same as CSGO and TF2. Wonder when we're gonna start seeing Titanfall 2 as liminal videos or ARGs for this one. Not just the graphics, but even this movement being on the Source engine blows me away. I don't know about you, but if I were asked to write down a list of traits common amongst Source games, fast and fluid movement would not be one of them. Don't get me wrong, I actually like the weighty movement of those games. You know, it actually makes you feel like you're wearing a bunch of military gear, or whatever the fuck this lady is wearing. It's just nuts to see that someone was able to completely change the movement into something unlike anything else on the engine. After the tutorial, your training is cut short by the commencement of an attack on a planet held by the IMF. You get launched out of the ship in this drop pod like you're an ODST, which makes this the perfect place for me to point out that this ODST key art looks exactly like the poster for American Gigolo, and begin to take part in the attack. At this point, we are not actually a pilot yet, we're a grunt. Yeah, you know those guys who get killed by the hundreds every multiplayer match? That's what we are. Fortunately, you're not just any grunt, you're Private Coop Jacker of the FFS Limp Dick, so you've been fielded with an experimental new technology known as plot armor. This means that as the player character, you can still mow down hundreds of enemies here while your teammates dick around doing nothing at all, really. Everything goes south, your buddies die, these mercenaries ambush you and fuck you up, and then you get to watch your mentor have his obligatory death scene. After his distraction, the mercs forget about you completely and leave. After a relaxing nap, you're woken by one of the locals and have one last conversation with your buddy, who hands over the keys to his Titan to you. This Titan is basically the secondary protagonist of the story. His name is Bacon and Tomato, they don't serve lettuce out here, 7274. BT for short. BT gives you your first assignment. As he is a robot, he needs batteries to operate. Unfortunately, the militia cheaped out and used Duracells, meaning that he can't move now and needs you to go down to Dollar General and get some Energizers. After going on the most violent shopping trip ever, in which you become fully accustomed to the silky smooth movement and gunplay, you refuel your robot and can pilot him for the first time. This thing is a fucking power fantasy. Regular soldiers can't do a damn thing against you, so the only real threat you have to worry about is enemy Titans, who talk a lot of shit and then die instantly. Other than that, you can pretty much just go rampage mode. Your first overarching goal of the story is to find a dude named Major Anderson, the commander that you're supposed to be working under, who has a super secret special boy mission that you have to help him finish. To get to him, you have to go through this sewer system. I refuse to copy more successful and higher quality YouTubers, so we will not be doing a sewer count on this channel. The main boss of this section is one of the mercenaries from the intro. The game labels him Kane, but I'm pretty sure this is actually Ninja. He sounds and acts exactly like him. You fight your way through the sewers, doing some killing, some platforming, some dialogue listening, before you meet your adversary. The encounter is not on friendly terms, as he accuses you of stream sniping and threatens to have your Epic Games account banned. Not wanting to lose access to my lifeguard skin on Fortnite, I challenged him to a gentleman's duel and came out the victor. I may not have been stream sniping before, but I am now, cause I copped his radio and now I can listen in on his teammates. This is how you get acquainted with the motley crew of semi-sadistic mercs who make up the cast of villains in this game. They're led by a guy named Blisk, a former star of a wilderness survival show on Discovery Channel who went rogue after his show was cancelled because he didn't drink his own piss enough. They've been hired by the IMC to secure this planet and kill anyone who looks like they might have a moral compass. I don't really have one of those, but I always use my turn signal, so I guess that's enough to make me a target. Back on the way to Anderson, and BT suggests we take a shortcut through some sort of factory. It goes horribly wrong, and he gets stuck in machinery, and now you have to navigate a fucking Crash Bandicoot level in order to get him out. Instead of Cortex, your adversary for this section is Ash. Hey, she's from Apex. Brandon, put the gun down! Her deal is that she's a simulacrum, which is a human being whose mind has been transplanted into a cyborg body. I'm not familiar with how that process is supposed to work in the game's lore, but I imagine it's like the Exos in Destiny. She's sadistic as fuck and basically treats killing you like a game, but she's ill-informed as she appears to be unaware of my service history. After making my way through this garish gauntlet of garbanzo gaming, I'm just throwing together G-words, my girlfriends, I managed to hook back up with BT and commence with the boss fight. She talks a lot of shit about how she looks forward to adding my helmet to her collection, and then I kill her almost instantly. Also, check out this cool war crime I committed on my way out. Now on to the level that everyone remembers, the time travel level. I'm normally not a fan of when games introduce time travel. It normally just makes the story really convoluted and kills any impact most of it has, but this game does a smart thing where it's pretty much exclusively a gameplay mechanic and the story barely even acknowledges it. So the deal is you find Anderson, but he's dead as hell, so you take this time displacement device that he had that you can use to travel back to the past and kill the shitty enemies that suck ass. For real though, this thing was so fucking cool. First off, it's instantaneous, no loading screens, which I can only imagine was an absolute nightmare to program. Second off, you use it to do all these really cool platforming puzzles that starts to make the game feel kind of like Portal. The design in this level is ridiculously creative. You could probably do a whole video just breaking down the intricacies of this stage alone. After fighting your way through the facility in both today and yesteryear incarnations, you learn that the IMC is using the technology of the device to build a super weapon that's kind of like a cracked out Death Star. You have to get a device or something that's essential to the construction before the IMC can recover it, which culminates in this awesome time freeze section that just looks incredible. This is a Source Engine game, by the way. After doing our business here, we link back up with the last remaining survivors on the planet and help them set up the power in the facility they're in so we can contact the rest of the militia. In order to do that though, we need to fix the communications array, which is all fucked up. We hold off some IMC waves and then BT comes up with a great plan to get around the problem of getting to the rest of the facility across the gap. He's gonna chuck me like a fucking baseball.
Wind, 3 knots, heading 274. Range, 95 meters. Projectile mass, 89 kilograms. Trust me.
Fun fact, I didn't. Also, this is a Source Engine game, by the way. Jumping across gaps, running on walls, this is like Mirror's Edge, but for people with violent tendencies. As we slaughter our way through the high-rises, we start to pick up chatter from the next merc we're gonna face off, an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonator who says every other sentence in German for some reason. You know, it's a really good thing I'm not scared of heights, because I imagine I'd be knees weak, arms spaghetti at this part if I was. Get the dish set back up, and it's time to confront the man who killed the Predator. I must be better than the Predator because I make short work of Arnie and he blows himself up. Guess he won't be back.
Understood. We'll get you transferred to a fully qualified pilot.
Objection. Cooper is my pilot. Our combat effectiveness rating now exceeds 90%.
Yeah, for real, lady. What the fuck are you talking about? Now it's time to take part in Robo D-Day. This is an all-out assault on this facility with all these mech battles and there's shit blowing up all around you and chaos everywhere, and it's just great, man. It's really great. I can't even remember what the point of this level is. I just remember feeling like the world's most psychotic Gundam pilot. I think we were supposed to catch some ship with a thing on it. I don't know. I guess it got away because the next level is this chase with all these jets. Now just when I thought this game couldn't get any fucking cooler, it does. You're jumping across these planes going at 100 miles per hour, you fight alongside other pilots for the first time and go Doom Eternal on everyone in your way, BT slugs you across the planet again, you fight another merc who can fly, all this crazy shit happens, and this is a fucking Source Engine game, by the way. One small problem. The level ends with you getting captured. BT gets executed, but it's okay since his AI core is still intact, so you grab that along with the deadliest weapon in a shooter since the BFG, the Smart Pistol. It's literally just a pistol that fires homing bullets at anything that even so much as suggests its existence to you. Alright, pause time. I have a lore question for any Titanfall fanatics who may be watching this. In this universe, we have giant mechs with oversized guns, super soldiers who can bounce off walls and run faster than Usain Bolt, God knows how many gadgets that can turn you into a human jigsaw puzzle, and pistols that were made specifically so Stevie Wonder could use them with 100% accuracy. Is there a story explanation for why anyone would sign up to be in the military in this world? After killing 100 people while exerting precisely zero effort, I managed to get BT a fancy new body, which is convenient because this is the home stretch of the game now. After a final push into an IMCA-held facility, we go up against the last boss in the game, Sloane, Blisk's second in command. As is expected of the final boss, she's definitely the most difficult, which isn't saying a whole lot since I still killed her on my second try. After dispatching the least irate British woman, me and BT got fucked up trying to stop the weapon from going off, incapacitating us. Bliss gets the opportunity to finish the job, but is impressed with how I killed all of his underlings, so instead he gives me a link to his Discord server. As the facility begins to explode, BT sacrifices himself to save me, and I make a final run through the world's biggest shitstorm to make it home in one piece and get a few games of Apex in before bed. Titanfall 2, everyone. That was a lot of fun. Now that the main story has been summarized in my own special way, I want to take a moment at the end of the video to talk about the future of this series. At the time of writing this script, the internet is awash with speculation over the potential imminent announcement of a new entry in the series. Titanfall 2 came out in a year that was packed with competition. As I said earlier, it released between Battlefield 1, a game with enormous hype behind it, and Infinite Warfare, which didn't have enormous hype behind it, but that didn't matter because it's Call of Duty, so it was still the best-selling game of the year. Infinite Warfare also came packaged with Modern Warfare Remastered. On top of that, Overwatch had come out earlier in the year and was pulling some pretty huge numbers. TF2 and CSGO were going as strong as ever, and I think PUBG had even entered its first beta tests. The point I'm trying to make is that Titanfall 2 had a steep hill in front of it, so it's no surprise it wasn't able to make the climb. But that was 2016, 7 years later, and the industry is in a much different place. Battlefield is now at its lowest point, with 5 being a controversial game that I thought was really overhated, but that's besides the point, and 2042 being a complete train wreck. Overwatch has basically killed all of the goodwill it had with its player base. TF2 has the bot crisis, which did some damage to its community. Call of Duty is still going strong, but Vanguard proved that the series isn't invincible, and Apex has served to increase the series' visibility among a mainstream audience. If there's an opportunity for Titanfall 3 to reach the level of success that 2 should have, it's now. The only real competition it has this year as far as shooters go is CS2, which a lot of people have issues with, but I think is fine, and Halo Infinite, which seems to finally be on the upswing. If Respawn can take advantage of their opening with a strong marketing campaign and a good overall product, then I think a new Titanfall has a real shot at success. We've already kind of seen this with the huge surge in players that Titanfall 2 has experienced since the servers came back online, so there's clearly interest. I think the question now is, what kind of game will Titanfall 3 be? I mean, obviously it'll be like the first 2 in terms of gameplay, but I'm more wondering if it'll be a live service game or something more traditional. Personally, I'm hoping for the latter. Apex has already kind of filled the niche for Respawn's service shooter, and I've noticed that most studios that maintain a service game tend to have a sophomore curse, where they try and create a second service game that doesn't go anywhere. With the writing on the wall that the games as a service model is starting to wear off its welcome, I think the smartest thing to do would be to take advantage of player frustrations with the current state of the industry and release a full content, quality title on release that can be bought and played as a standalone product. That's just my 2 cents though. I'm not a developer or marketing guy or finance guy, so I don't really have any idea what would be the best thing for them to do. All I can say is that I'm looking forward to what Respawn might have in store for this series, and I hope it provides me and my friends with the perfect opportunity to fully jump into this franchise and give it the love it deserves. Hey everybody, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks. It means a whole lot. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all your standard YouTube stuff that you always hear. And other than that, I will see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.